I want to thank, first of all, my co-hosts who have worked so hard to get this organized. And if you would just quickly raise your hand if you were a co-host. And first of all, I want to introduce Dr. Asad Khan, who's going to give a few remarks on behalf of the Frederick County Democratic Party.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I just want to briefly introduce our county party. I am the chair of the Democratic Party of Frederick County. And we have excellent volunteers, executive committee members who have worked really hard to bring this party back from being inactive in 2019. Our bank account was closed for almost 4 years, and there was a lot less activity in the party, and sometimes even our chair would not show up.
It's opened now.
And now, yes, we are open and we are active and we are getting bigger and stronger. From 2 or 3 paying members, we are close to 110 or 120 paying members. Our budget has doubled or tripled, and we have more presence on the social media, which are being managed by our social media team. I thank them all, wherever they are. Thank you very much, social media team. We open the communication. We would love to have more members. I know politics can sometimes be frustrating and hard, and sometimes you don't get what you're looking for. But this slow and steady progress is what is needed to establish our party back here in this county and the surrounding counties. So I would love people to reach out to us, get to know us, and become members, or start even just contacting us. You don't have to show up on the meetings, but it's always good to have more numbers. This will not only help Chris Jones, but it's going to help all our local candidates who I can see here. Let me ask them to raise their hands, and I want people to get to know them. Here? Yes. Shanoa and Steven. We have a couple of other members, I don't see them. So I would love everybody to come and get to know them, because we help him, we help the party here, and vice versa. Just a brief thing on Chris Jones, and I met him in Elaine. That was 1.5 years ago. We were in Elaine, and there was a program going on the Elaine massacre, and he made a speech there, and I immediately felt that this is a guy who can lead as the governor of Arkansas. And I invited him here in July of 2021, and since then we have become good friends. And not only I see him as a humble person, but a very competent and knowledgeable person. And I'm going to vote for him. Enough of my speech. I will now pass it back to Lisa, who's going to introduce Chris. Thank you.
I just want to remind everybody that you need to donate. I mean, let's be real, the campaign is not free. We really need to help Chris' campaign get the message out. There are still people who don't even know he's running. I have talked to some of them. So please donate whatever you can. Quick plug there. But when I look at candidates for office to choose someone to vote for, I look at four things. One is the candidate reasonably intelligent. I think Chris definitely checks that box. Two, is the candidate compassionate? Do they seem to genuinely care about the people in the area that they will represent? Do they have anything in common with the people living there? Do they have integrity? I think we can all agree Chris checks that box. Three, does the candidate understand the issues facing the people they will represent? Will they represent everyone to the best of their ability and not just special interests in big business? I think Chris checks that box. Last, have they shared with the public their ideas and thoughts about how they're going to govern? Do they talk about actual issues, or do they just spread fear and promise to fight for us? Do they listen to questions and give actual answers? And have they visited with voters and made themselves available for scrutiny? And by being here tonight, Chris checks that box. And without further ado, the man that I hope is our next governor, Dr. Christian.
Wow, this is a great crowd. Lisa, thank you. Thank you for hosting. Thank you to all the hosts. And by the way, Lisa, my sister's name is Lisa. Yeah, well, I was wondering with you for sure. Most of the time we got along. But I love her dearly. I love her dearly. It's great to be back. I feel like this is one of my homes. And I feel that way for a couple of reasons. One, because I see some friendly faces that I've known for quite a while. And two, I see friendly faces that I just met today. Because at the end of the day, we are all neighbors. We're all neighbors. And at some point, we have to break through the division, the melee, the mess, the name calling, and get back to the humanity of it all. We have to. And so that's why I'm in this race. I come from humble beginnings, for those who don't know. I grew up riding dirt bikes, eating honeysuckle, and fighting grasshoppers. I was pretty good at fighting grasshoppers. And I remember growing up, and it was always about community. My mom was the only child. It was only because her mother lost 11 children. 11. To miscarriage or stillbirth. But yet she had cousins that were like her sisters. So I spent a lot of time with them, in part because my family has been in Arkansas for over 200 years. So we're related to half of South Arkansas. Maybe half of Arkansas. I keep talking to y'all, there's a relationship somewhere, I'm sure. But because of that, always cared about family. Family mattered to her more than anything. And I think because of that, her father also always cared about family. Now here's a man who grew up and had a third-grade education. That was it. He didn't go any further. And he drove a truck, and he would tell me as I was sitting on top of this truck, he said, "Big man, get an education. Because when you get it in your head, no one can take it out." And I know some of you in here have heard that before. And that's what pushed me to go to Morehouse College and get 2 degrees. And to go to MIT and get 3 degrees. And to work at NASA, because I was exploring and pursuing, but I was also being lifted by what my grandfather said. Now the interesting thing is that the reason I felt okay exploring and pursuing and trying new things and going outside the state was because I felt like at the end of the day, I always had a community back here at home. And so I left, but I never left. I went away physically, but I never left. Because there's something unique and special and amazing about Arkansas. And that's what was put in me growing up. And that's what drove me to pursue education. But he said something else to me that made me look at the reality of the situation and come back home. He would always say, use every gift God gave you to help someone else and do it at home. Every gift. So my wife and I, and those who haven't met my wife, she's amazing. Once you meet her, you're probably going to say, why is Chris running? We need Gerald to run. And I promise I'm not joking. She's a combat veteran of the Air Force. Yeah. She served in Afghanistan. She's a child of Alabama. And she went to college in D.C. at Howard University. She went to med school at Harvard Medical School. So she's brilliant. Brilliant. She's the state medical director for disaster preparedness in Arkansas. She's the mother of our 3 girls, and somehow she puts up with me all the time. And what I love about her is her willingness to serve in any circumstance, to put herself on the line in any circumstance, and to give her all to others. She was working at the finish line during the Boston Marathon bombing. Because she also does work with EMS, first responders. And I'll tell a quick story. When the bomb went off, we lived about 1.5 miles away. So I heard it and I felt something shake. Or at least I thought I felt something shake. That's what my memory tells me. But immediately, I'm like, oh no, what's going on? Turn on the TV. I picked up the phone and tried to start calling her. It took an hour to get through. Now, I'm frantic. I don't know what's going on. I know she's at the finish line because I dropped her off that morning. I know it's total mayhem and devastation down there. I finally get through to her. And so when I heard her voice, my heart started beating again. And I said, you need to get home. Her response was, no, I'm exactly where I need to be, and I need to get off this phone. And I was like, oh, right? Because she cared about serving others more than she cared about her self-interest. And that's what we need in our leaders. We need leaders who are willing to go the extra mile, to put in the work, to put themselves on the line for others and not for their self-interest. So when I think about this race for governor, people have asked me, how do you do it? It's hard. It's a challenge. It's a strain. And my response is, there are 1 in 4 kids that go to bed hungry every night. In Arkansas. There are bridges that are collapsing. There are retired military folks who are committing suicide. There are trans kids that are being attacked. There are women who can't figure out what to do with health care because it's so in flux. So the things that they go through on a daily basis pale in comparison to the pains and struggles of a campaign. And I'll tell you, my family loves this state so much. And I know that we're in this together, and that's what fuels us to do this thing. Because I know that together, we can spread PB&J across the state. And what's PB&J? There it is, preschool, broadband, and jobs. And for those who don't know, I like peanut butter and jelly. And in a bad sandwich, peanut butter is clumped and the jelly is clumped. And I was talking to the radio reporter earlier today when he was asking how do you address the needs across the state. Well, a bad sandwich, the peanut butter is clumped and the jelly is clumped, and sometimes you take a bite and all you get is dry bread. My hometown of Pine Bluff, my dad's hometown of Hughes, my mom's hometown of Stevens, right here in our area, where we are today, in Jonesboro. There are too many folks that are taking bites and all you get is dry bread. No support, no help, no resources in comparison to other parts of the state. But when you spread it all over, that's when the sandwich is really good. So we need universal pre-K. And it's high quality education starting with pre-K. We need broadband access for everyone. And I won't even tell you, because you all know firsthand what happened in COVID. But it's solid infrastructure starting with broadband. And we need real economic development, where we are looking at the different regions across the state and lifting them up by region. There's no one size fits all. But I'll tell you more than anything else, and this is where, in part, the ministerial side of me comes out, because I am an ordained minister. More than anything else, as I go across the state, yes, people talk about the kitchen table issues, they talk about education, they talk about economic development and infrastructure. But the thing that I hear, and I hear it in their words, I hear it in their actions, is that people want community. People want community. They want to actually be able to sit with their neighbor again and be different from their neighbor, but their difference be embraced. I am a black man. Period. You are a white man. We bring that to the table and celebrate it. Because that diversity, that difference, when we bring it to the table, that's how we solve problems. So, you know, when I think about my time at NASA, we put a man on the moon and a rover on Mars. You don't do that if all you have is a room full of aerospace engineers. You need physicists, you need artists, you need biologists, you need psychologists, you need writers, you need everyone. And I think we don't get Arkansas from 50th to 1st without putting everyone on the field across the state. Folks with lots of experience and folks with no experience. And the last thing I'll say is that when I think about that and the possibility of Arkansas and our ability to really realize our promise, the reality is we also face a real threat right now. So I am asking you to vote Chris Jones for governor. I'm understanding that our for vote is also speaking loudly against something. It's speaking loudly against division. It's speaking loudly against someone who says they want to govern but hasn't said what they want to do. That won't show up. That won't answer questions. That spends a lot of time with some really shady characters. And you have to ask those questions. Because one has to ask, what is the price for Arkansas? Is she selling us out? And that's what we have to ask. Because if we don't show up in November, starting in October, if we don't engage the 1 million people who did not vote last cycle but could have, 1 million Arkansans didn't vote last cycle but could have. If we don't engage them, then we are opening the door for insanity. Right. You look at what DeSantis is doing in Florida. Right. Even recently, busing immigrants up to Martha's Vineyard. You look at what's happening in Texas. The electricity grid collapsing. We don't need that in Arkansas. We don't want that in Arkansas. So we're saying no to ethnicness and yes to community. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. And I want to tell you, I'm going to end with a story that I've told multiple times. Before I do that, I want y'all to know in no uncertain term, folks are listening. Folks are hearing across the state. and the energy and momentum is building for what we are doing. Our internal polling shows that when voters know both of us, and I'm going to make a side comment later because I'm a data guy about her polling, if someone asks a question. But when voters know both of us, we win by 11 points. By 11 points. You know what that means? That means we have to do the work of getting the word out. We have to do the work of showing up at our grocery stores, in our gas stations, in our hair salons, in our schools, and saying, one, are you registered to vote? And two, do you know about Chris Jones? When we do that, we can win this race. When we do that, put in that hard work. And for me, that hard work is a reminder, I wear this bee, the bumblebee. And my wife made this connection. The bumblebee is a reminder of what we're doing. Because the bumblebee is the story of doing the impossible. 80, 90 years ago, scientists looked at the bumblebee and they said, something's not right. Body is really big and the wings are really small. And they couldn't figure it out. So they said, you know what? We're scientists. We answer questions. They looked at it, they studied it, and they ran the calculations, and they determined, in no uncertain terms, it is aerodynamically impossible for the bumblebee to fly. But somebody forgot to tell the bumblebee. And even when they did tell the bumblebee didn't listen. And that's our campaign. Folks are saying you're a black man in the South, you have no money, you've never run before, maybe you should run for a different office. And we're ignoring it. And that's how we won the primary in a 5-way race with 70% of the vote. Because we ignored it. And we're still doing that. And you know what else, y'all? Decades later, the scientists realized something that the bumblebee knew all along. The scientists discovered something that was there all along. It just wasn't understood. That when the bumblebee flaps its little wings, when it works really hard, and I equate that to the campaign when I say when we show up, when we talk to each other, when we travel the state and walk a mile in each other's shoes, when we have the hard conversations and hard work, we are like the bumblebee's wings. And there's something magical that happens when it's flapping its wings. There's a vortex that's created under it. And it's that vortex that gives the bumblebee the lift it needs. I'm here to tell you tonight that you all are the vortex. That we are the vortex. We are the vortex. And how do I know it's true? Because we have high school students that have never worked on a campaign, and we have young folks that worked on Clinton's campaign. We have Democrats, we have Republicans, we have former Republicans, we have I don't want to be affiliated with anything, and we're all working together. Because we can be strong Democrats and still sit at the table with everyone else. And still say, you know what? I am a Democrat, but what matters is the best solution for the problem we are facing. And I'll get that from anyone. And that's why we're getting lift. And that's why we're going to soar. I'm excited about November. I know that come November, we're going to do something that is going to shock this state. It's going to shock the world. And it's going to give us a chance to truly realize the promise of Arkansas for all Arkansans. I will tell you this thing. I'm pumped because I'm with my neighbors. And as the Bible says, second most important commandment is to love thy neighbor as thyself. So I want you to know that I love you.
We love you.
And I love you. I know that whenever we do this together, there is no one and no thing that can stop us. So let's make it happen. Let's go get it. You take a couple questions, please. I'll take a couple questions that I want to make, and I'm happy to answer any question. Since we're all standing and listening, I'll only take a couple in the audience, but I'm happy to answer any one-on-one. So what do we got? Questions?
Will she debate?
Will she debate? There's a debate scheduled for October 21st.
Where?
It's going to be PBS. So it'll be televised. It'll be recorded in the morning, televised at night. So we're getting ready for that. We're also going to do a debate on KTV without her, because she turned that down. But that's okay. Because it just shows. I mean, we want her there. But she has said some things. But she said that she believes in no exceptions for abortion at all. She said she was just endorsed by the NRA today with an A+ rating. And you gotta wonder, who's buying you out? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. So what she said was that they told me not to run. They told them not to come here. And told them that don't bring your family here. And she came anyway. And raised her family here and loves it. And I will say it's 34 years. I will say something about that. There's the narrative we hear, and then there's the life we experience. And the narrative is Arkansas is a red state. The experience is Arkansas is a non-voting state. The narrative is racism is rampant, and sexism is rampant everywhere. The experience is neighbors really just like working with neighbors. Now, does that mean that things are perfect? No. Does that mean that we need policies to stop bad behavior? Yes. But when you go out to communities from Mena to Harrison to Huntsville to Rector to Piggott to Paragould to Pine Bluff to El Dorado, what you see are folks who just want to work hard and enjoy their communities. They just want good education, safe communities, reliable infrastructure, and a job that will pay them good wages. That's it. That's it. So that's what they want.
Explicit books.
Yep.
How would you protect public institutions like schools and libraries?
Oh man. Yeah.
We need to denazify the library.
Look, here's what bothers me. The stuff is just mean. It's just mean. It serves no purpose. Like, is it helping educate anyone? No. Is it fixing our broken water system? No. Is it putting a job in place that wasn't there before? No. So we have to have elected officials who are going to spend time on real problems. Now, should I win and they win, we'll be ready to fight. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean fight for the sake of fighting. It means folks have to stand up together and realize that we are only better when we have the tough conversations, when we open our minds to a range of things. There is a big book ban movement. What I said before was that some folks, including my opponent, would turn Arkansas into an incubator of the worst possible policies. And they will work their way up to the Supreme Court. Think about that. An incubator, open door, Worst policies ever. And I'm a scientist, so I don't exaggerate that much. I am a preacher, so I do exaggerate some. There you go. That I do. That I do. I like my opponent. Ooh, I say that. But we have showing up together is what has to happen. That's a strategy conversation that we have if and when they do that. One last question. What my favorite? I love that. What my favorite food is? Well, look, I've been to all 75 counties and I'm going back to all 75 counties again. As you can see, there's a lot of favorite food. A lot of favorite food. That's a list. I love chicken. I love beef. I love collard greens. My mom has an amazing, well actually I have it now, a chicken spaghetti recipe. I make a mean chicken spaghetti and mean cheese dip. So one day I'll make it for you. Look, I want to tell y'all this. How can we do this? Because my name is on the ballot, but this election is about all of us. This election is about all of us. I'm asking you to own the campaign. Make it yours. You know how to reach out to your communities, reach out to them. You know what issues matter most, talk about that. You know what things will move the dial for people. Have that conversation. So own the campaign. I'm asking you to invest in the campaign. We need dollars. If everyone in here decided right now that, you know what, I'm going to put an extra $50 in the campaign, that would go a long way. Because again, when voters know us, we win by 11 points. How do they get to know us? We need to put ads on TV, we need yard signs on the streets, we need billboards that are coming up, we need to be on the radio, and we out and about. And I say we intentionally. I show up everywhere, and you all need to show up everywhere. Because you all are the campaign. And the last thing I think is very important. I need you all to pray. Pray for me, pray for my family, pray for us, pray for this state. And if you don't pray, meditate. If you don't meditate, burn some incense. If you don't burn incense, do whatever you do.
Maybe take more phone calls.
And, you know, as a side note, I say that jokingly, but I am a minister, and I get that question a lot about, well, as a minister, as a Christian, you know, what's the deal with separation of church and state? And I think you can stand firm on your faith and live it out publicly without turning the state into a church. And I can sit at the table with atheists and have a real conversation and talk about how we make education better. I can sit at the table with Buddhists and Catholics and whoever. Because guess what? Everybody brings something valuable to the table. We just need to make space. Now, there are some folks that bring negative values, and we have to weed that out. But for far too long, the decision-making tables in Arkansas have been a select group of folks who have a similar background and who all think a similar way. And that is hurting us because we have too many folks that are left out of the conversation. And I'm saying it's time to bring us all into the conversation. So, and you all are good because you didn't ask about guns. You didn't ask about what's up?
Okay, first 10 days.
Yeah.
You're done. First 10 days.
First 10 days?
What are you going to do first 10 days?
Oh, well, first of all, we have to have a big party here. So clearly, the first 10 days, it's important. PDHA is important. Education, infrastructure, and economic development. Preschool, broadband, and jobs. We have to push that hard. Also know and understand that there's some cultural dynamics that are happening here. And by cultural, I mean the cultural experience we have had has been one of division and one of fighting and meanness. And so there has to be some time spent on changing that culture. There has to be. I equate it to some of us have been in very abusive relationships. Very abusive relationships. And so come January, it's a new relationship. But you have to give it time. You have to give it time to heal from the old wounds. So we create tables where people can actually be there and do the healing while we're doing the work. That's what will be my focus in the first window of time, listening and healing, because I think that's what's going to change Arkansas as we solve the real tangible problems. So, be energized. Know this. We can win this race. We can. We can only do it if we do it together. Only do it if we do it together. Now see, the bartender always has another question. I'm trying to close out. It's always the bartender. Yes.
Let me just say, I'm the owner.
I know this.
This was booked for 40 people. There's 110 people in this.
I know. Yeah, you don't give you a hard time, right? No, but I am glad you pointed that out. Because, well, that's true. But look around. Look around. You can actually look around. We had over 100 people walk with us in Hot Springs. We had 120 people walk with us in Springdale. So folks say that a Democrat would never win in Arkansas, first time candidate never win in Arkansas, but here's what's really going on. And I had a conversation, I know it's going to be ending, but I had a conversation, I'm a preacher, we get 3 endings. If some of y'all want to sit down, that's fine. I had a conversation with a colleague who is a Republican, and he has worked with the Huckabees. And we talked about a lot. He tried to get me to join the Republican Party, and we've gone back and forth and talked about that. But here's what I said to him. I said, look, I want you to be honest and ask this question of yourself. Who is going to be better for Arkansas? Who is going to care about all Arkansans, regardless of party? Who is going to work tirelessly for every Arkansan, no matter who you are? And he knew it. And I said, you don't have to answer it. But I want you to remember, when you go to the voting booth in November, no one has to know who you voted for. You can still be a Republican. You can still be their friend. No one has to know. It's a secret election. And you saw it in his face. He's like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Well, I say that to say, it's time for us to do the right thing, regardless of party. And I will end with this. They are noticing and getting nervous. Anytime the former president starts talking about stolen elections, that means you know that there's concern. And just last week, he said that the election could be stolen in Arkansas. That's good. Yeah. Because here's the deal. Here's what I know. I know that we have over 100 people in here. in Jonesboro, and this is the second time in the last couple of weeks that I've been here. I know that we had 150 people in Hot Springs walking in the rain and heat. I know that folks are on the phones all day, every day. I know that people are having conversations with their neighbors. I know that folks are opening up their restaurants and talking to folks. I know that people are driving trucks early in the morning to make sure that we hit these parades. That's what I know. And I know that that's what's going to change the game. And that's what's going to win the race. And that's what's going to make Arkansas an amazing place for all of us, regardless of who we are, regardless of our background. So with that, I am going to end and say, I love you, and I'm pumped, and let's make it happen.